New tonight at 11, the suspected killer of April Tinsley stands before a judge.
Goes through your mind, did I see him? Was he looking at us while we were playing?
Hear from the accused killer's brother.
I've helped him out his whole life, and ends up he's hiding this for 30 years.
Who talks exclusively to our reporter.
It's sick.
While Tinsley's family reacts to the case's newest developments.
My mom called me last night. I said, hey, did you hear the news? And she told me that they finally got him after all these years.
And a Grable community rattled that a predator lurked near their children for so long.
Great community, but kind of scary knowing that somebody that kind of a monster lives here.
And the city's former mayor, who steered a community terrorized by a killer on the street, reflects on a case that was heavy on his heart for so many years.
30 years is a long time, and after that, you really get to the stage where it's going to be a miracle if anything happens, and it sounds like we had the miracle.
An arrest 30 years later. Today, the man police suspect of raping and killing 8-year-old April Tinsley standing before a judge. Miller timidly agreed to reading the probable cause affidavit against him, the basis for the preliminary charges of murder, child molesting, and confinement.
Tomorrow, authorities will host a news conference expected to reveal new details in their investigation. But before that, our Corinne Rose spoke exclusively with John Miller's brother, hoping for a look into the mind of an accused killer. Miller's brother shared these Polaroids with us, both from the mid to late 80s, around the time April Tinsley disappeared. Miller, described as a little slow, spent time at Wood Youth Center and then a reform school in the early 70s as a young teen. But his brother doesn't know why. Their mother alluded to the possibility he was molested, triggering something dark inside of him. Something his brother says is still no excuse.
What he did is just sick. I'm done with him. You know, like I said, his arraignment was today. I didn't go to that. And, you know, if they want me for a witness or something in court, they're going to have to subpoena me or something, because I don't have any intentions of going and seeing him or anything.
Miller's brother says in hindsight, he should have picked up on the handwriting, which he now says he recognizes. He also tells us he's glad their parents didn't live to see this.
If that happened, you know, maybe that triggered something in him that he thought was all right or something. I don't know.
And you said now that your parents are gone.
Oh, this would have killed both of them.
Like everyone else, his parents knew about the Tinsley case. New at 11, we showed April Tinsley's cousin that full interview with the suspect's brother.
Strong emotions in our studio tonight. ABC21's Caitlin Kendall spoke with the family, asking them if they can forgive April's killer.
Brian and Alexis, they talk about when they first heard news about the arrest and what the past 3 decades have been like, not knowing whether the case would ever be solved. Just a day after the news broke, and it's still hard for these relatives to believe. They tell me this doesn't seem real.
Do you think you'll ever get to a point where you can forgive him?
No, never.
2 simple words that say a lot. April Tinsley's family reacting to the news of John Miller's arrest for a crime 30 years ago.
It sucked. It caused a lot of conflict, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of destruction in the family.
James Tinsley, who was 6 when the crime happened, says losing his cousin has haunted him forever.
Growing up, the Tinsleys, we were close, you know. There was me, April, Misty, Melinda, you know, we were close.
After Tinsley was killed, he says everything changed.
After all that happened, it was more of, hey, stay closer to the house, stay in the yard, stay where I can see you. If I can't see from this window, I want you in the house.
While many people thought the case would stay cold, these relatives say they always knew police would arrest a suspect, which is what made Sunday so important.
I was in Columbia City driving to the store, and my mom called, and she told me that they finally got him. I was like, got who? And she explained everything to me, and I was ecstatic after all these years.
3 decades of waiting.
You could feel the weight, you know? it was gone.
As for what's next,
We'll get through it. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Make you happy?
Yeah.
Now, after the interview, I asked the family what they would say to others who are waiting for their cases to be solved. They told me they would tell them to have hope and to never give up.
And one detail about where police found John Miller, the place where he allegedly assaulted and choked April Tinsley, the same place he called home for 30 years after that crime, grabbed the attention of many of you at home.
That detail was across the street, a girls' softball field. Tonight, we return to that field, a place that should be home to summer fun, but as it turns out, was in plain view of a hidden predator.
This is her first practice since hearing all this.
Kim Funk's daughter practices with her softball team on this Grable field twice a week, a field just feet from the scene of a heinous crime, the home of April Tinsley's accused murderer.
Oh, it's just pretty eerie and creepy that somebody's been that close to our kids in this community. It's kind of scary knowing that kind of a monster lives here.
Don Muller, who lives near the suspect, says that ballpark hosts games nearly every day.
A lot of traffic goes by through here,
Drawing not just players, but younger children from the neighborhood to a playground near the Diamond.
when they have softball games, a lot of the kids go down there and play.
One of those kids is her daughter.
Felt like I had chills up and down my spine.
Her daughter is 8 years old, the same age as April Tinsley the day she was pulled off the street, raped, murdered, and dumped in a ditch.
How many times has he watched my daughter or other kids in the neighborhood, watching them, who would have been his next victim, or how many other victims did he have?
We reached out to former co-workers of John Miller at the Walmart where he has worked for years.
While no one would go on camera with us, one former co-worker did provide a statement recounting his experience working with Miller, saying this, quote, he was reclusive. However, some of the time when he joined in a conversation, you could barely understand him. When Walmart had a smoking break room, he always had a tobacco-filled pipe and did word searches. There was an incident where he urinated in his pants and kept on working. Managers had to send him home.
He used to have little outbursts when he was upset or when a customer made him mad, and he cursed a lot. Managers had to pull him to the office to address the issues, and he just stared off into space. Before I left Walmart, I shook his hand, and now knowing what he did, it really makes my stomach churn thinking about it.
Former Fort Wayne Mayor now Paul Helmke was sworn in January 1st of 1988, the year April Tinsley was killed. We spoke with Helmke today, who tells us the case has stayed with him all through the years.
It's one that kind of just stayed there at the bottom of your heart the whole time, and you kept wanting something to happen. You wanted closure for the family, closure for the community. You wanted justice to be done, and hopefully we've now got the right person.
Well, Helmke tells us he believes the community will be at ease as soon as a conviction comes, and credits the teamwork of police and prosecutors for never giving up hope finding April Tinsley's killer. And looking forward now, how could John Miller's case play out in court?
Today, we talked to a lawyer with no connection to the case to understand what Miller could be facing in the coming weeks. Attorney Mark Kiefer has been a prosecutor since the Tinsley story first broke in 1988, even working on the case himself at one point. Kiefer says Miller could receive a sentence as severe as life without parole or even the death penalty. As a father of two little girls, though, he says he is thrilled to know this case might be coming to an end, recalling the fear it caused among his community.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, it's absolutely horrific. I felt so devastated for her and her family. And just like everybody else, I'm really concerned that this guy's running around. And he's run around for decades. I'm just incredibly relieved that they finally caught him.
Because it is such a high-profile case, Kiefer expects the defense to ask to move the trial outside of Allen County or bring in outside juries. John Miller's next appearance in court will be Thursday.
And we've been covering this story closely since it broke yesterday, providing the community team coverage every step of the way during this investigation. And join us tomorrow morning at 11 when all the major players in the investigation share new details in April Tinsley's death. They'll be holding a news conference. We plan on covering it live for you. We'll also stream it on our Facebook page. And for complete information on what we know so far on John Miller and the progress of the April Tinsley case, visit our website, WPTA21.com.
Next at 11, President Trump slammed by intelligence officials after criticizing them in front of Russia's president. What both sides are saying tonight.
And it's been hot and humid lately, but a cool down is on the way. Matt Leach has the good news when we come back.